All right, I'll turn it over to Frank and Jennifer.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have two handouts in regards to the status of the 2020 budget analysis. Do you have, yep, it's,
Oh, it's just,
Yep.
gotcha, never mind.
the first one is the 2020 budget revenue analysis. And it identifies what was the June 30th revenue budget for 2019 at $41,654,455, excluding beginning fund balance. It's at $35,867,736. And I'll be referencing the dollar amounts that are excluding beginning fund balance, because that's really the important aspect of what is important, of what the conversation is. So the 2020 maintenance level budget increased the revenue to $35,568,000. Adjustments to the maintenance level were $1,895,000, so that the current budget for 2020 in revenues is $37,462,000. Just reminding the Commission, the reserve policy says that the board will budget expenditures based on what the the cash revenue is, excluding beginning fund balances. So $37,462,569 is the benchmark. We have how that allocation of the beginning fund balance of $11,637,000 is allocated into our fund reserves. So if we then move to our expenditure analysis, here again I'll be referencing the totals excluding ending fund balance, again, because that's the actual cash flowing through the account. We have 2019 revised budget of June 30th of $36,130,534. Just as a reminder, our preliminary budget as presented to the board was $43,056,152. The maintenance level budget that was prepared after the prelim was $36,784,000. Since then, we have added tentatively adjustments to the maintenance level of $1,277,000, bringing our current adjusted maintenance level budget to $38,060,000. Deducting the revenue of $37,462,000, we are about $600,000 short. However, in the maintenance level at this point, we don't have the additional reserve required to bring our operating reserve up to the amount that the reserve policy requires, which is about $255,000, as well as funds to pay open, unresolved CBAs between this year and next year's increases of about $427,000. So that brings us to a negative balance of about $1,300,000 above what we have in revenues as expenditure budget for 2020. So in addition to that, we still have $743,000 worth of PLRs outstanding that have not been approved tentatively. The question that I'd like to pose to the board is, those adjustments that have been made to the maintenance level, we can go through those on a department by department basis to review, to ascertain whether or not they should stay in maintenance or not. And then go back into a conversation around what to do as far as the balancing of the budget is concerned.
Okay, appreciate that. So I'll just open it up for commissioner discussion on that.
Okay, I'll start on our expenditures. We don't budget in our expenditures, our reserves. Do we?
We don't, just in the beginning and ending fund balance lines.
But it's just the beginning and ending fund. So my point is although I appreciate adding the 254, that's already going to be there. That's part of the reserve that's in there already. That's not an expenditure. I appreciate for information wise, but we've got several million that above even our total expenditures that we're not spending as well. It's just another part of the money that's not being expended, not an actual expenditure.
It would be a reduction of the unreserved cash,
Yes.
an increase into the reserved
Yes.
operating reserve. So yes, that's probably correct, yes.
So I just want to make that point, so that changes the numbers a little bit, because if we were expended, that'd be different, but we're putting money away on that. Also, you had down here the one-time expenses, you had $201,436. Now, I looked at my paperwork, you and I talked earlier, Frank, looked at my paperwork, I saw $106,000 for computers alone for the sheriff's department. We were talking about 50, and I.
So there's still, in PLR, $70,000 worth of IT equipment still on the PLR side for the sheriff's office.
So, I do know that you'd like to go look at the maintenance again, and I agree, I don't think that'd be prudent. But just to let you guys know, I looked at different options and different things to come up with. The truth of the matter is just moving $1 from here to there, and it's a perception issue. We can fix it easy enough by just acknowledging that we have, the reason why we keep growing the ending fund is we have an unexpended budget authority that comes in every year now. We stopped budgeting for it at all. Right now, if we were just to budget half, which we've never gone below, anything like that, we'd still be flush enough to do all that. Because what do you have going for this year? 2.6 for this year you're expecting? Right now, 2.5 is what we've put in for our ending fund balance, but what are you expecting for the end of next year?
Assuming that everything stays, I hate to use the word status
No,
quo.
unexpended budget authority. My
Yeah,
apologies.
it's about $4 million of unexpended. Oh, unexpended
Yeah,
budget?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Expenditure? $2.7 million.
So, even if you cut that in half, brought this back down to the million where it actually is, we're safe completely without breaking the agreement or the wording. I don't want to ever put you in that position. It was good policy to set it up, and I completely agree with it. And that would give us the ability to do those few things that we still need to do also.
It would still require a decision of the board to go outside the parameters of the reserve policy to identify the expenditure increase over revenues, because the policy says you will not spend above what the revenues are budgeted.
No, we change our revenue. I agree with you, but the idea would be to change the revenue to show some of that income that's why we've been growing
Well,
so
but
much.
it's already in here. The revenue,
The revenue for last year is showing on the ending fund balance, but it's not showing as.
you can't increase it in the revenue side. It
For
would
next
be.
year?
Correct, because we've already budgeted. So
Where's
the
that?
revenue's already budgeted, and what,
Where do you have that in our revenue?
so our revenue is $37,462,000.
Okay, where do you have the ending fund.
That's
unexpended-
not budgeted in here.
No, that's what I'm saying, it's not budgeted in there.
Again, I don't know where to budget it, because that's unexpected budgeted revenue. That's the nature of that, is that we conservatively budget on all of our items, and in so doing, we don't budget for the things, the dollars that are above the conservative estimate.
Okay, we purposely took that out 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, but we purposely took it out.
Correct. So,
It could be-
to allow for the growth of reserves, so that when there are economic downturns, the reserves that are in our ending fund balance are sufficient to
And I
cover
don't want to touch our reserves.
our negative exposure.
And I don't want to touch our reserves. It's not what I'm talking about at all. We'll meet offline and go.
So
over it.
you're suggesting, I'm not following exactly what you're suggesting.
Well, just like we did some things, over the last several years, we stopped, for a while there, we stopped taking some of the income revenue from the.
DNR.
Yes, now we put some of it back in,
A little.
a little, pretty well, but that was a conscious choice. We stopped budgeting some of our unexpended budget authorities. We had budgeted that at one point, in order to grow
Correct,
this.
and that
number.
was that's what's,
In order to grow this number from, in 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, from 2.8 million, or actually it was before, so 3.2 million, to 11.5 million.
mhm.
Where at some point, we can recognize that it's actual income.
Or,
Sorry.
I don't know if that's, yes, okay, I'll acknowledge, it would be income, yes, revenue.
So Commissioner, would you then suggest utilizing that for one-time purchases, or?
Well, at first, that's what I was thinking, yes, but that was before we started. The truth is I can't do the one-time purchases and include, and it's wise to include the fully loaded CPAs and stuff. That's, now, in the past, what we've done there also is we've created a line item specifically for that. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but it is wise to budget it. And so that would definitely count as as an expenditure, even, in the expenditure line, even if we didn't expend it now, it still would show as an expenditure line. So without taking up some of that ending fund balance, or increasing, as you had mentioned, which I'd rather not, the sales tax, or even in timber, I'd rather not touch those. Keeping everything at an extreme reserve, conservative estimate, it seems wise to me. This would be just given a conservative estimate to the ending fund balance.
Yeah, so I think, my concern is, when we look at, when we look at the maintenance level, and just things that are, that we've already agreed to do this year, I think we've made some really significant investments. And I think there just has to be a point where we, are realistic about what's really available, and making sure that, we have an eye to the future with that. I think I'd rather be caught in a situation where I have to apologize to people for spending not enough than spending too much. I think, so that was the basis of wanting to go back through the maintenance level and seeing, just kind of parsing out, while we're still able to make maybe some modest investments that, maybe there are some areas that, we could defer on, or things that we could, look at some point next year, and really get a budget together that meets the needs of the county with, but also preserves our ability to defend against a downturn.
I'd like to go through it line by line too. I think there's some places in here, I think, where we're kind of double billing ourselves. So we're getting an IT guy, right? Well, maybe,
Let's say we haven't,
We haven't decided yet.
maybe. But the IT department, aren't they getting money for some computers?
So in order for the IT department to do computer replacements, to begin that process, they have the $50,000 that they need in order to purchase the computers. And they estimate between 40 and, Ross is not here, 40 and 45 computers. But they need a body in order to
Do that?
to build them. So the $50,000 worth of computers, to some degree, is still sitting in here as a PLR.
Okay.
The body is a separate ask, and that's on the special fund side for the IT department.
Okay, so like in the assessor's office, there's 20,000 for IT and tools, 70 in the sheriff's office, 40 in the public defense. So are those included in that 50?
No.
No.
So in
So these are over and
the
above.
public defense, 30, don't hold me to it, 35,000 is software for a module to tie into the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office. And I think there was $5,000 worth of computers. So that would be a double, because the IT would have replacements for those. The sheriff's office, $70,000 worth of IT. Do you recall what that was for?
I believe it was just to replace computers that were 6 years old or older.
Okay,
Yeah, that's why the difference in 106's original is they were going back further than that.
Yeah.
so some chunk of that is computers to replace. And then you said auditors,
Assessor.
assessor.
27,300, is that what you were referring to? Or the
20,250.
250.
250, okay.
Do we know what that was, whether that was software or hardware?
I don't know, I'll go back and research that.
So we could look at what the impact of the IT department taking over $50,000 worth of computers does to this PLR ask on this side, because it may cover some of that.
But it's not in our maintenance at all,
Correct.
so that'd be an additional. But we
Yes.
have to do something.
So if you want to walk down the list, just go department by department. And start off with the WSU for $33,766.
Okay, so that includes $15,000 for the WSU MOU contract that has been signed. And then the remainder is the additional .25 FTE. The majority of that being the medical of $15,120 that,
While I like this process, I think it's also, it might be helpful if we looked at all these lines and then determined if there was anything, so the MOU would, we've already signed that MOU and agreed to that. But if it's insurance or like LEF or whatever, just make sure to call those out
okay.
as things that are
Maintenance.
like non-discretionary
Right.
spending. Sorry, didn't mean that.
So yeah, the remainder of that is the .25 FTE, which I believe is part of that MOU.
With Debbie.
Yeah, for WSU. And I can get with them and get back to you tomorrow on how exactly that all works together.
And And we'll talk about the .25, whether there's any cost savings on the current expenditure side in regards to the transition of staffing. The assessor?
So the assessor, what's been moved into maintenance tentatively is $3,000 in office supplies. They had 2,000, we increased it to 5. Just because they had said that it was really low, so I'm not sure exactly how comparative that is. So it might be something we want to look at. The 32,500 is computer equipment. So
No,
that's-
it's only 19,000. That's already in maintenance.
Well, I think that was the total. It is, that is the grand total of all of the changes, because we moved, I had originally in budget level 3, I had 15,000 in reallocate from salaries that they had done this year. So I removed that. When I did that, the changes were, we had added in 32,500 for the computer equipment, which is the answer to the question you just asked about what that is. And then the rest of it is the removing 15,000 from reallocate from salaries. There was, an error that I had just moved over into that budget level 3, so taking that out. And then the difference, the remainder of the difference is there's a negative $2,066 in Terrascan, a $600 increase in copier lease, which, is something that we probably want to look at and see, how much exactly the copier lease is going to be. Removing $100 for their insurance bond, since that's being paid for now out of non-departmental, and a $1,000 increase to tuition and registration. So that's the total with the 3,000 in operating supplies comes to the 19,000.
So we'll take a look at the 32,500 computer and see whether or not that's a double charge against what IT is going to do.
Thank you.
And then 98,000 into auditors.
So that is postage, and that is, I believe it's a grant from the state, so and they have offsetting revenue of the same amount, so that's what that 98,000 is.
And then 8,500.
And then we also added an elections tech earlier this year, so that's factored into their maintenance.
Yes.
Emergency management, 8,500.
So that is adding and removing expenses for grants. And then all of those things have offsetting revenue as well.
And then facilities and grounds.
So facilities, we're removing a 0.5 FTE to parks. And then there's 3,500 for phones, 1,500 for Mel Chevrolet building rent, 850 for equipment rentals, 36,000 for electricity, PUD, natural gas 7,200, water service 18,000, Elevator repairs and maintenance, 3,000. HVAC repair, 5,000.
So we can take a look at those and see which ones are non-discretionary.
In HR, we have 20,000 for testing, and that's a one-time testing cost. In left, we are increasing the total budget to 100,000 due to past actual expenditures.
So why does that show as a $98,000 increase?
I think I did not have anything in my original maintenance budget. Since it was for salaries, I skipped over that, so that was an error in my original, so this is correcting it. For the clerk's office, we have $1,000 that we added in overtime.
And that's to get them,
It was to, help with what they've been doing, I guess, this year. I believe they may have been down a body or maybe catching up from the
transition.
yeah, catching up from, the audit finding too, I think probably took up some of that time. So maybe that's something we can look at.
And then we added a position there earlier this year as well.
Mhm. And then there's a 200 deduction in commissioners
Well, there we go.
That's good.
and 18,000 for district court.
So for district court, we removed 76,000 from the pro tem line and moved that to the JSS 3 in the probation portion of their budget, so adding that position, which puts them at 35,000 on the pro tem line. And then we added 13,000 for dispute resolution, which has offsetting revenue. And we took out 1,500 in travel, added 600 copier meter, took out 300 for the insurance bond, added 6,000 for UA fees, which has offsetting revenues. And that's it.
Parks and trails.
So there again, we added that 0.5 FTE that we removed from facilities. And that's a total of about 43,000, a little less. And we added 700 in office supplies, 1,000 in janitorial supplies, and 1,000 in operating supplies. Copier lease, we increased by $1,352. It's a very specific number. Electricity, $2,971, $12,634 for water service, and $286 for garbage service, and $2,000 for repairs and maintenance.
Juvenile court,
So
that's minus 5,600.
Yeah, they did a lot of moving.
Just
moving
cleaning up.
money. Yeah, just cleaning up the prior year's budget.
Prosecutor was 672 to the negative. The next one would be the coroner for 4,000.
So that one, we did $1,000 in professional services, $2,000 for forensic pathology, 1,000 for indigent burial, and I believe all of those costs, Wes had said, you know, we're just increasing, and he's managed to keep it at bay. So we can, you know, check with him again and see if there's any wiggle room there possibly for 2020.
And then the sheriff for 361,000. That's going to be complicated.
Yeah. Okay, so so on that one, we did a lot of zeroing out lines and adding to, like, the office and operating supplies. We added 59,200, but the majority of that was coming from other lines of, you know, programs that we had zeroed out. So, and my notes are not on this page. So I can get back to you on a lot of this, but we can kind of run down through the major things.
Public defense of 87,000.
Do we want to go over some more of the sheriff stuff right now? Just, we added the administrative sergeant tentatively, so that's in that maintenance number.
It's in the maintenance number?
Yes. So I can take that out.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to get. I want to make sure though, because we talked about that, we had other positions, we need to find out if you put them in maintenance already.
The ones that you see that are open are in the notes on the PLR, the open PLRs. So the 2020 FTE PLR asks, those are the ones that are open still?
They haven't been added to me.
Correct, yes. They have not been added to maintenance.
Into those positions.
So the two corrections officers,
Those
are they in 361?
No, those are in the,
That's the two positions that are still.
yes, that's the 174,000 there.
Because we asked that be kept aside.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or
Yes,
put
yes,
it
yes.
in maintenance, so.
What was the total on that, Jennifer?
Two-
Admin?
Yeah,
87?
87, and then plus the
Plus, yeah.
benefits.
We said, what, 110?
We said 115 is what we had said, but it could be as high as
I think
125.
it came out to more like 120 if I remember right, but totally added it. 117, well, almost 118.
And that was for?
The administrative sergeant?
And that's in the 361,000.
Yes.
That's, okay.
That changes this, too.
Public defense?
Before we move on to that, we do have the 46,700 for the jail control panel maintenance, and then 77,000 in food services in maintenance.
Did you put any of that in the one-time expenditure line for me?
I don't believe I did. No, I did not.
What were you looking to happen there?
Well, for flexibility, whether for one-time expenditures, cover that difference for the control panel or the food.
How much was the control panel, 49?
46,700.
That's a set contract, so it could be considered, right, that's set for 5 years?
I don't know, do you know that off the top of your head?
But it doesn't go up, it just.
No, I don't recall.
Oh, she's got it over there, 3?
3 years.
It was set for 3 years, so that could be offset.
And it also includes the 77,000 for this food service increase.
The 77,000, yes, that is included in maintenance at this moment. So for OPD, we included the legal assistant in maintenance for a total of 76,000.
Was that the one we gave the last time, or just
This
now?
is in the current 2020 budget, so it's not included in 2019 for OPD.
Okay.
Did we do an increase, staffing increase in OPD?
We did have the discussion.
We had talked about having, we were considering the legal assistant position, and then we were talking about converting the contract
Correct, that's the.
into a juvenile attorney.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have 25 in front of that. Did you put that 25 into maintenance?
25. Yes, 25 for,
This is gonna be interesting. That changes some of the numbers.
So the 25 is in that 87,000 maintenance?
it is, yes.
And what else is in there?
And the position?
And the legal assistant?
The, yes, the legal assistant is in there.
Yeah. So we agreed to move that one over. The other one was questionable, was the 25. But you put it in there, so that's interesting.
And what was the 25 for?
That was for the court commissioner, or it says DV/anti-harassment.
It was the realignment of the contracts with the body, right? And it costed 25,000 more to realign and get rid of those contracts and place that body in there.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I was down in Superior Court, so no, that is not included in there. Sorry about that, I was skipping ahead.
Okay, so we gotta find out which ones are and which ones aren't. So, okay, go back to the public defender again. That was one of the ones that we had talked about. Putting a check mark by, like the sergeant.
So we have, a maybe next to, and it doesn't tell me the description of what this position is, but it's in the 240-200 line.
Okay, so that's still the maybe, the 25.
Yes.
Okay, so make positive, if you don't mind, go back to that sergeant, make positive, that's not a maybe. Because those have to come out of the numbers that, we had different numbers. We had numbers that we were looking at the other day for maybes. And
I have a note, administrative sergeant, yes, per VOCC, 102919, 87,441 is in the maintenance column. Yeah, I just skipped ahead to.
that's all right.
OPD.
Just
Mhm.
I mean, to
trying to figure out which ones we did
Superior
that with,
Court
which ones we didn't.
So in general, the three positions that are sitting in maintenance that are increases, because we've got a number of positions moving which don't have any impact. We have one in district court, one in the sheriff's office as the admin sergeant, and one in public defense as the legal assistant.
But that one was a wash, that wasn't.
Right, and then there's a .25
That was an
in,
extra week, but we agreed that it was a point, it's a .25, the rest of that was considered a wash.
and there's a .25 in WSU,
Yep.
and then there's a .25 in Superior Court, which we're gonna go over now.
I don't remember the one for Superior Court. Remember the one for Superior
The
Court?
only thing I remember a conversation around was court commissioner.
Yeah, we shifted all that, we decided, no, we're gonna put the rest of that money that they had for their,
No.
Is that for district?
that's district, yeah.
In Superior. They wanted to move part of their court commissioner from therapeutic courts over.
Oh, it was a move, a lateral move.
So that's a move, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're right, that is a move.
Sorry, it is.
So there's a few other small changes in OPD. We have 2,000 in miscellaneous services, 4,800 in felony contracts, 3,600 in misdemeanor contracts. And that's it. So So moving on to Superior Court. We have the 5% time that was transferred from, for the court commissioner from therapeutic to Superior Court, 10,146. And we have 25,000 for the DV anti-harassment commissioner. That's just the description. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but
In Superior?
yes. And that was approved by the board on October 22nd, so at their budget workshop.
Therapeutic court for 18,000?
We still have a few other things for Superior. We have,
Sorry.
850 for IT trackables, 250 for office supplies, 8,000 for interpreter, 700 for copier rental, removing 100 from bonds, 557 for another copier, and that's it.
Can you track down a little bit more information on the interpreter fees?
Yeah, sure.
Catch. I may have shattered them in a million pieces, but that's fine.
So in therapeutic court, we have a negative 5,386 in office supplies, 2,810 for incentives, 500 for small equipment, negative 12,400 in urinalysis fees, 47,702 for service providers, 235 for a copier lease, negative 34,391 in chemical dependency services, positive 24,391 in UAs, 8,000 in recovery support, and 2,000 in assessments. But their budget is fully balanced, so their revenues match
It's
their
gotta be TS, because of
expenditures.
TST money.
Mhm.
So that's 17,982. How much of that is actually current expense money versus treatment sales tax money?
So we have the CJTA at 49,130. We've got transfer in from mental health, 300,507, which I believe theirs is one of the ones that's out of balance. I think they have more money coming in than mental health has, coming out. So that's something I need to check on. They've got 3,200 in drug court program fees and $258,047 in drug court program fees.
So we'll see how much of that
I'm sorry,
17,000
FRC expansion. It's reading the same line.
is current expense contributed as opposed to TST dollars.
Yeah, if any. The other thing with that, I was just thinking about the mental health balance you were just talking about.
Mhm.
Some of that might be because of the Family Recovery Court grant that they got,
Okay.
where they're showing more because of that. So
Okay.
that could be an issue to run down maybe.
Okay.
Then we have treasurer for 9,000.
So we have a negative 1,000 office equipment, 1,500 positive and IT trackable equipment, 500 trackable tools and equipment, $725 in cell phone, $3,000 in postage, $1,500 in travel, $15 in the PO box rental, $275 for the copier lease. It is interesting that, the copier leases are kind of all over the board. Maybe that's something that we need to look at kind of more globally. See what's happening. $2,000 in forms and registrations, $50 in refund interest paid, $25 in, again, refund interest paid, and then we're on to non-departmental. And there we have $5,500 for codification increase, $1,985 in miscellaneous government payments. That's the payment to Orca. We have the grants coming in and out. $200,000 for the economic opportunity services, and then an increase of $229 for public services, the public services grant, which again has the offsetting revenue. Negative $15,000 in GIS professional services.
Is it a fair assumption then to say that the difference between the 1.277 million and the 598,000 is the difference is there are things that are revenue neutral?
These two items?
Your bottom line here, the 590, I can't read it upside down, 598,000 in this number, does the difference in those two numbers, all the things that were moved to maintenance that are revenue neutral?
No, because part of that includes the sergeant and stuff. That's why
Right.
we were pretty close when we were guessing,
Mhm.
but I don't think you did either on the sergeant and stuff.
Yeah, but I just, because I'm
LEF is
saying,
not revenue neutral.
right, but I'm saying, so that, but there are things that were moved to maintenance that are revenue neutral.
Because they're revenue neutral.
Right.
Yes.
So what portion of the 1.277 million is revenue neutral?
I can go through and kind of categorize that for tomorrow. That might be helpful in making some
That
decisions.
takes things off, in my mind, that takes things off the table then that are,
Mm-hmm. Because there are,
yeah.
like, for instance, the auditor,
Mhm.
that's revenue neutral.
So the 98.5 is revenue neutral, or not
Yes.
the entire thing?
I think that's a 1-for-1.
I think that's $1 for dollar, yeah.
Except for you
It
didn't
is.
spend it.
It is.
But you didn't spend it though.
It's it's reimbursement for the prepaid postage. So we get back what we spent.
For 2 years, though, it wasn't 1-for-1 going in and out of this year.
51.
The amount that they had coming in as revenue is what I put into the expense side. They actually had, I think, a slightly higher amount on the PLRs. That's still in the PLR column.
Part of that is that the November election,
Yeah.
we spend the money in this year and we don't get the check from the state until January. So
So it's still.
the bottom, I mean,
Half and
yeah,
half.
ultimately, it is a zero net, but it doesn't always line up perfectly because the state doesn't care about calendar year budgets. They care. So
June to July, or July to June.
it's all the same to them, not to us.
The state doesn't care, fill in the blank.
So then, what we can do is take a look at where those items that we've just somewhat identified. Identify those that are absolutely non-discretionary and then revenue neutral.
I just want to go back to Patty for a second, if you don't mind. So, looking through, the universe of options here, so that is, what all are you required to do with the 98,000 from the state in order to get reimbursed at that level?
By law, we have to provide prepaid postage to every voter in every election, and we get reimbursed for every dollar that we spend. So, I don't have any choice. I have to print prepaid postage on every envelope. I have no control over how many people mail back. We encourage people, I was on the radio this morning telling people to put them in Dropbox, not mail, but that's not anything we have any control
But
over.
is that for primary and general?
Every and special and every single election, same
That
deal.
you would have all of 2020?
Right. And which could be as many as 5 elections.
So is that a one-time expenditure, given that it's a reimbursable? Or is that something that, I don't mean to make you panic here, but I mean, is that something that we could address as a supplemental throughout the year in the lead up to the elections?
Or subsequent to, because he won't know until after the election when he gets the bill back from the post office.
Well, I actually have to give them money. They don't extend, the post office does not extend credit. I have to give them money and they spend it down, and then I give them more money and they spend it down. So.
So he would need budget authority to spend it.
But I don't necessarily need budget authority today for November 2020, but understand that I'm gonna have to spend that money, and
We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, because, I mean, because that's
That's a unique issue.
Yeah, and if, do you, I mean, what's your anticipation for the legislature's willingness to continue to fund the prepaid?
it is inconceivable to me that they would take this away. They specifically did not pass it as legislation, they did it through the budget process. So it is currently budgeted through the 1921 budget, so there's money in the state budget for 2020, there's money in the state budget for the first half of 2021. It's there. They're not gonna take it away.
So, I was just processing something, sorry.
So
If you could
yeah.
maybe kind
Yeah.
of noodle on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that is all that we have.
What about juvenile?
Have we already went through juvenile? Yeah, we went through juvenile, and that was just a conglomeration of changes.
Did you put a check mark in next to the juvenile detention? It's one of the ones we went over the other day also. I've roughed out about 75K.
Yeah, I have a maybe,
About 74.7?
a maybe next to that.
So you have a maybe on that one still, okay. And you kept a maybe at the WSU ones?
No, those are moved over into
At
maintenance.
least half of that is because we already signed the MOU.
How much did we move over? Because I have, can't remember right, it looks like 35K that we set aside to decide if we can come up with the money.
33,766.
Okay, so you already moved that over, so that's.
Yes.
Okay.
So for tomorrow, then I'll come back with you know, what's revenue neutral. I'll have a total for that, and then
Non-discretionary.
Yeah, non-discretionary contracts that are already signed, and then a third column for discretionary, I guess, or possibly discretionary, which doesn't sound like a lot going through this list. But I think that may be room for a couple items.
Anything else you'd like for tomorrow?
Do these amounts include vehicles?
No, there's nothing in here in regards to vehicles. Everything is based on ER&R budgets.
But we do have maintenance vehicle amounts. I believe for current expense it was 600,000 roughly. I don't have a total in here, but I can get that for tomorrow. A total for ER&R rates in.
Oh, yeah, there is.
expense.
600 and change in current expense for ER&R. That's already included in here.
In maintenance level.
Yes.
Mike, you guys could consider, throw some stuff out, you know, if we make it, you know, show a little bit different if it's something you're interested in. Okay, so I'm going off of the numbers itself, going back to the original list. If you remove the, if you remove the 254, 530, because it's not an actual expenditure, that just stays within our reserve. That brings us down to 1,025,000 that we're actually shy. If we were to do one-time expenditures, just on the maintenance level ones, not even counting anything else for PLRs, that's another, basically, see that with, if you were to add the potential fully loaded, the CBA as a line, one time as a line item, and then you were to add with it the one-time expenditures, that's 790,000 that it offsets. Currently, if you come up with that, you come up 235,000 short. If we add on to the wish list that we accomplished the other day, that brings us, because the sergeant is off of there now, and WSU is off of there now, that brings us a total for another 160,000 that would be needed on top of the 235. So 395 basically. Plus you have another 100,000 in other things that were one-time expenditures, just to remind you of what came to the auditor's office and stuff that we had talked about. Overtime chart of accounts, 34K for software. What's it called, like cafe management, or? What was that software, Frank? 34K?
For the public defender's office?
Yes.
It was a case management.
Case management software.
Okay, so case management software, and then we still have an outstanding thing on Russellwood. What are you guessing now, about 40K?
I need to go back and look at that again. I need to talk to Loretta about that, but we may be okay for 2020 if we move in about between 30 and 35,000 from REIT 2.
Yep.
But
So
I
we
am
did find
afraid-
some stuff that we could use from REIT?
I think that, yeah, I think there's some repair and maintenance stuff that we can
Justify.
put in, yeah, justify as being REIT expenditures. And on the beginning fund balance, I had put in all of the expenditures towards the water meter projects, and they're done with it. So there's some money in there that is going to be in the beginning fund balance that I had removed. So I think they may, well, they're definitely better off than what I had said the other day, so.
Good. That's good news.
Yeah.
So basically, just bring it back to what this comes down to. If we consider to put a line for the potential CBAs, we do away with a line for the reserve because that's not an expenditure. We drop those numbers down. If we did a one-time expenditure on things that are one-time expenses only, and the things that are considered one-time expenses over here, you're looking at about 850,000 that we would have to move from one time, and then you'd still be about 385,000 shy. With 385,000, if we were to take 1/4 of the unexpended budget authority, you're there. Just something to think about, not saying to do it today.
Can
I'll-
you, or can you have Frank put that
Yeah.
all in place, right?
Yeah. Wait, wait.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would give us, the juvenile position, by the way, that would give us the public defender, the .25, or the 25,000, the public defender's office, and the software, and the chart of accounts, and so, I'll put it all
Yeah,
together with you.
All right.
Mark?
Any other questions, commissioners, for staff?
But we'll still have to figure out what we're gonna do on computers though. And how much of that the PLR would we want to consider even doing as a one-time investment as well. Because if it's only 50,000 there and they're saying 70 plus, it doesn't, the numbers don't jive.
Well, they have a different threshold.
No, they lowered their threshold to ours, it was 106. And then they lowered it to ours,
Yeah.
so that brings it to 70, you only have 50 in that line. For everybody, is that for,
Well, it's 1 year's worth of computers. So
you can only get so many done in a
you can
year,
only get so
Sam?
many done in a year.
Okay.
And especially if we don't have a body to,
Well, we can't do any if we don't have a body. Or, let me rephrase it.
Which
We can do very limited
we
without
have
an extra body.
not in any of our calculations.
Is there,
No,
That's special fund,
okay.
so it's not current expense.
But to pay for that body in the special fund, we gotta get the money from somewhere.
Correct, and that gets spread between current expense and the other funds. Roads, funds, utilities.
Can you break that out for us to see how much it's gonna affect current expense? 'Cause we
Yeah.
have-
Yeah.
If we do that, we have to come up with that part right.
it would be about 60,000 for current expense.
That's quite a good job.
Well, she already calculated it.
So we gotta add another 60. Okay. To 450, so.
okay, anything else? Okay.
All right, tomorrow.
Okay, all right, we are
Thank you.
adjourned until tomorrow morning.